So I was down in Austin, Texas, about a month or so ago now for the Star of Texas Tattoo Convention. And I love Austin. I've always had a good time there, Longhorn country, brisket country. The convention is right across the street from Terry Black's Barbecue. If you haven't had Terry Black's, you should give that a shot. Anyways, I split a booth with my good friends Ty and Robyn Pallotta, and I haven't seen them in quite a while, but we have kept up through text messages over the last year or two, and they've been telling me what a challenge it's been to secure like a storefront for a tattoo shop. They have been working in a private studio with no frontage, no sign, none of that, and they wanted to move on to and open a shop. And they had something like 22 or 27 rejections from property managers and from property owners. And it just blew my mind because there are so many tattoo shops in Austin. I couldn't imagine why it would be difficult or why you'd be getting turned down, for when you're applying for spaces just because you run a tattoo shop. So we took a few minutes after the convention and went to their new shop. They did finally find a spot. In a weird twist of fate, it was the first spot that they ever looked at, and they'll tell that story in the interview. But we sat down at their new place, Bonnet Tattoo, really cool shop. You'll get to see some walkthrough footage of it during the podcast. But we talked about kind of the challenges of tattooing in a town like Austin these days. And there are quite a few towns now that are so saturated with really great tattooers and so many shops. And then unfortunately, a lot of the shops have been priced out of the city itself. And so you have folks in Austin who used to tattoo, say downtown or near South Congress and all of that have been pushed out into the suburbs or into the country to tattoo. And so we talked some about that. I think there are a lot of towns that this might if you're in bigger cities, this might resonate with you. Nashville, I don't think is far behind. They're probably in a similar boat. But anyways, we sat down, had a nice conversation about tattooing in Austin, about their shop. And I hope you enjoy it. Before I get to the episode, though, Ty just did a technique talk, or a gear talk, to be more specific, with the Inside Fireside Tattoo Club. Ty is big into machine technology, and he's got a real kind of engineering mindset. You might know that from previous episodes that we've had him on. And so I wanted to invite you to join the Inside Fireside Tattoo Club. You'll get access to the recording of Ty's gear talk, along with dozens and dozens of other technique talks that we've done and critique nights and things like that we've done over the last few years that the Inside Fireside Club has been in existence. We record everything and you get access to all of it along with live new events as they happen. In fact, last night we just had Corey Bernhardt do a technique talk, and last week we had Matt Driscoll, Raptor Laser, do a technique talk, and they both were really fantastic. So I wanted to invite you to join our club. If you haven't already, I'll leave a link to get you more information on that. So, hey, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoy the episode. I'll see you at the end.
So, I want to talk about the studio, which is awesome, which we're in right now. This is the waiting area. But before we get into that, I want to talk about how you ended up here and some of the struggles that you went through to get a space. Because I guess I'll need the whole story because you guys, I think most people who watch the show will know you because you've been on before. But so you came from New Jersey. You had lived down here in Austin years ago, moved back to New Jersey.
Yeah, I did my apprenticeship here in 98. Came back here in 2007 with the family first time. Came back again in 16, 17 again. We just weren't willing, I wasn't willing more than she wasn't, to get rid of the shops back home. Worked too hard to build all that stuff, and then, the traveling back and forth is why we kept going back. It just burned us out. But I wasn't willing to say, I'm cutting loose of all of that stuff yet to be in Austin full-time. Every time we went back and dealt with the winter and everything, we're like, what are we thinking, man? Why don't we just get rid of everything? But then, things are going really well. Financially, things are going really well. Buying all the toys, get the bigger house, all that stuff. And it's like, that's why I'm here, and then you get bored with it again. Like, all the things in the world don't make you happy. You're happy where you want to be, not because of material things. So we said, we should try Austin again. But testing the waters again that second time was just me keeping the shops there, coming out here, getting an apartment, renting booth space in somebody else's shop, all of that, for me to go, I can't do this anymore, man. So I was flying back a week a month, tattooing 7 days straight, coming back here, working the whole time I'm here, even on days that the shop was supposed to be closed, I was in there working. And then I just, got so burnt out after a year and a half of it again, just gave it all up. So
And Robyn, you started a different business down here one of the times as you came? Was that 2007 or was that another time? Were you doing like a Jew or like a?
So that was in New Jersey. I had a juice bar, which I started in 2013.
Yeah.
My memory's not so great anymore.
2013.
2013. And I did that for 4.5 years, and then I sold it to actually come back here in 2016. Yeah. So
Okay. That's the first time I remember, because we met in 2015, we decided. So 2016 was the next time you guys came back here. Yeah. And then for that period of time is when you were managing the shops in New Jersey and then trying to get a foothold and build a clientele here.
Yeah. So the problem with all of that is the more time you spend away, the more people wonder what they're doing working for you instead of just going out and doing it on their own. So they were miserable when I was only coming back 1 week per month. And once we decided to pull the plug and move back there full time, that's when they said, well, we're happy you're back, according to them, because it wasn't going well here when you're not here. So
So what year did you, I can't remember, it's been like 2 or 3 years since you kind of pulled the plug, sold everything there.
yeah,
21.
So I think for a lot of people, you have change of life. You spend too much time in the house with your spouse during COVID for the first time, and you realize you can't stand each other. So for us, it was just us going. It's not that we don't love friends and family in the area we're from, but we're not as happy here as we are in Austin. We never have been. What are we doing? And now that we're not working all the time and we have the distraction of constantly working and making money, you're like, am I happy here? Is the money and the toys all I really need in life? Absolutely not, man. So let's dump it all and let's get back to Austin where we wanted to be, and if we would have just did that in 2007 instead of many times between then and 21,
That's kind of what I like to talk about, is that because you've seen that transition from 2007 to now. And I started coming, we just finished the Star of Texas show, and this is the 22nd one. I did the first one here, and I can remember walking South Congress and, actually the first one, we had to come down to South Congress because that was at, because the show was like almost out of town at a hotel, like off the interstate. It wasn't at the convention centers or anything like that. But I remember coming down and it seeming like a pretty small town.
It was. So even in 98, I worked on 6th Street in San Jacinto. It was like an apprentice factory.
Huh.
The streets were so clean, you could literally eat off. Not that you would, but you're like, man, this place is unbelievable. Like, what a gem. So when I brought them back in 07, and we go down there to 6th Street, and I'm like, wait till you see this street. You guys are going to love it. And there was just garbage everywhere, and it smelled like urine. I'm like, sorry, Robyn, I guess the city couldn't keep up with the growth.
And that was 07.
That was 07.
So that's almost 20 years ago.
Yeah, it was already pretty rough then.
Well, okay, so fast forward, and you guys had, I've been down here and met up with you guys a few times. You worked with James Hall for a little while at Aura. You bounced around a couple of spaces. You had a space that was kind of in an interesting little spot that looked like an apartment complex for a while. Small studio. They were small, but it was a cool layout.
So the front 2 buildings on that condo property were converted over to office space. When we went into that space, we thought it was local office. Turned out it was limited office, and one thing that limits in limited office, you can't have personal services. So we said, well, the zoning's not right for us, so we need to move on. So we ended up in the solar salons. When we came back out, the 2 of us, we wanted to work private studio together. We never had intentions of opening another studio. It was just 3 years of being in the private studio, even though the one-on-one with your clients is great. Us going, we really love the camaraderie and the energy of the tattoo shop. Our clients like cross conversation and everything. Like, we're good at it. We were always good at it. Why not do it again? So started looking for a space, which this was one of the very first spaces that we looked at. That was a yes in the beginning. And then due to broker miscommunication, he told us the deal had died. So we spent 2 months trying to find another replacement space. 20-something no's. 27.
What were the excuse, Robyn? What were the reasons? Like what were the reasons you were getting no's?
So a lot of the businesses, which isn't talked about a lot, places like Home Depot, Michael's, H-E-B, Whole Foods, they have lease stipulations that are antiquated from the 80s that say that tattoo shops can't be part in the grounds at all. So we went to a space and we were like, this is great. We can work with this. It was actually a sublease. And they're like, oh, Whole Foods is there. You're not allowed in. And we're like, everyone in Whole Foods is tattooed, like every single person. What is the problem? And it's really not up to...
Yeah, it's an antiquated law. Yeah. What other, like, lumped in with what? What are some other, besides tattoo shops, that they... do you even know?
They would talk to us about, assuming maybe like some of the places were like smoke shops, head shops, like vape shops, maybe like some of your lower level massage parlors instead of professional massage parlors, stuff like that. And it was basically, if we're going to agree to be your anchor tenant for the next 20, 30 years, no tattoo shops, no this, no that. So I said to them, I said, well, you know, I have a good client of mine is pretty high up in Whole Foods. Doesn't matter. It's in their lease that they don't want a tattoo shop, so we're not going to inconvenience them and ask them if they'd be willing to allow us to have a tattoo shop. Even though Whole Foods is now owned by Bezos, the spokesperson on the commercial for Amazon World Services is Jelly Roll, face tattoos and all.
Right.
And, you know, his side project, Whole Foods, they still say because it's in the old lease from Whole Foods owning it, we're not going to bother them and ask them if they're okay with it. So everything from, like she's saying, Whole Foods, Michael's, H-E-B, so our local supermarket chain here. You can be inside of like a salon loft or something like that, or a solo salon as a subtenant. They can't dictate who solo salons or salon lofts is allowed to sublease to. So you'll find a tattoo artist is able to go in there, but in that very same plaza, no tattoo shop. So we even had one person go, well, what if your sign outside didn't say tattoo? Like, okay, so like you'll let me in your plaza if I don't have the name tattoo on my business? I'm not going to let you up front by the coffee shop or the restaurant. Let me stick you in the back of the corner where nobody can see you by the concrete company.
Great.
I'm like,
it's just to set you up for
the same
success.
price per square foot, you're going to throw me in the back corner.
And I can't even say that I do tattoos.
Do you have any other people on deck right now? No. So then this corner space that I'm asking you for next to the coffee shop is the one I'm willing to pay you full price per square foot for. Based on your needs for square footage in the footprint you chose in our plaza, it's a no from us. Moving on. So this happened again and again and again.
So at this point, we're considering, like, should we contact a lawyer for discrimination because we're a reputable business, we're normal people. It just happens to be that we do tattoos for a living. So, like, what kind of fight do we have here? And so luckily it didn't get
come to that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, because you ended up in the spot around the world, but in the spot that you started with.
Yeah, we literally said, we're going to try these next two spaces. If we don't get a yes, I'm pulling the plug. I'm packing up everything. Fuck it, I'll go back to New Jersey. You know? I don't want to go back to New Jersey, but like, boy, why am I fighting an uphill battle in a super cool city where like anything goes? It's a super creative city, live music, comedy, everything's here.
Mm-hmm.
We're having this big of a problem because most of these big strip malls, these plazas, are all owned by people who are somewhere else in the country or investments corporations. They're not locally owned by Austinites. So the one in particular that was a no for us, they have 6 or 7 spaces empty in this plaza. It's owned by a company called Kimco, which is a national brand of retail shopping centers. And they said, no, we'd rather keep them empty. So...
Well, you mentioned that, and it makes me think. Emily and I have looked at selling our real estate portfolio and doing what they call a 1031 exchange. Essentially, you can defer taxes on a sale indefinitely if you put it into like-kind property. But it's really tricky to do because you have a short window to do it. It has to be a like-kind property. You have to identify the property within 40 days of sale. There's a lot to it. But there are companies out there now that essentially act as 1031 exchange companies. So basically, they always have a property ready to go for people like us. If we were to sell all of our houses and have some cash to put into a 1031 exchange, they own something just like this. And they're saying like, hey, we can guarantee you 4.5%. It's a 5-year deal. It's an all cash deal. So like we're not borrowing any money on it because we're using investors like you. We're all in it. And I think that when you were talking about they're willing to let the place sit empty rather than have a tenant in it, it's like because they don't have a note to pay to a bank, they have investors that they say, hey, we're going to give you 4%. It's actually, in the fine print, it's not guaranteed. If the place goes empty, it is based on rents. Like, you're not guaranteed the 4% every single month, but chances are you're going to get it. If you can't get it from that one, we probably have other properties that we can pull from or whatever. And so it's funny how inadvertently someone like me could end up investing in a property that discriminates against tattoo shops and never know that it happened.
You want that space filled, and they're going, we don't owe you that.
Yeah. Or I may never even know that they require that's a thing. I may never even know they're investing in a state that has some antiquated law. I'm just like putting my cash into a complex, that's supposed, and they're turning down quality tenants.
One thing they're promising their owners is, we hold ourselves to a higher standard. We'll never let riffraff like that into this plaza. Don't have to worry. It's going to be the most sought after plaza in town. Your best and brightest business owners are going to be here.
Right.
So
yeah.
So anyway, like fast forward 27 no's, I get an email from the landlord here, and he says, well, we're almost done with the construction and we're up to the flooring. Do you still want the polished aggregate, or do you want to change your flooring option? So my broker said, there's no way. You guys didn't sign a lease. You didn't give him your deposit yet. You didn't give him any of the construction money yet. Call him and see what's really going on. So when I called him, he said, yeah, no, we built your space. When we spoke on the phone, you said we had a deal. We had an agreement, right? Yeah.
You spoke to him on the phone or to his broker?
I spoke to him on the phone directly because the broker is out of the picture now. The broker no longer.
But the original conversation was with him or the broker when he said, yeah, we had a handshake deal?
It was with him. It was with him.
Bit of miscommunication.
There was miscommunication with the broker a lot, which a few times he was frustrated and reached out to me directly, rightfully so, because his broker kept making mistakes and mixing up stories, telling us the lease was dead, he wouldn't sign it, moving on after 7 weeks of lease negotiations and, money spent to a lawyer and everything. He said, nope, it looks like the deal is dead, unfortunately. I'm embarrassed, but it's done.
Sure.
The owner never had any idea of that. He said we had to take a trip to see family because we had family pass. So he told us, go see your family. We're sorry for your loss. When you come back, we'll pick up where we left off. There's just not enough time to sign your lease before we go. So 2 months had gone by, and he thinks his broker told him I was in Europe. So he thinks we're in Europe this whole time when we just took
Which was just
trip to New Jersey.
Just in Venice.
So
yeah, Jersey.
I said, look, it's not realistic. There's no way you built out my space on a Verdo. No one believes that. Like, he says, the lockbox code is the same. You still have it? I said, of course. Yeah. Go check out the space. Let me know what you think. If you change your mind, no hard feelings. Came over. The space was built. So, we owed our money for it afterwards once we signed the lease and everything, but it was one wall he would have needed to knock out if we had changed our mind. And he said, to keep this thing going and keep the permits live, let's just do it. So we stepped back into, after 2 months of stress and aggravation, a space that was originally a yes for us. So
so crazy.
Crazy story for us. My broker had never seen anything like it in 30 years. So he was like beside himself, like, there's no way, man. Like, it doesn't get any crazier than this, really.
Yeah, that's bizarre. I wonder, because spending some time at the Star of Texas show this weekend, I was talking to a couple of longtime Austin tattooers who were just talking about the struggle of just the number of tattooers in Austin and like what a difficult time it is to try to make a living. And I wonder if that comes into play at all with, our shops opening and closing quickly because of...
I don't think anyone closes. I mean, they will if their rents are insane. But tattooers could pretty much stay afloat or end up in, moving here and jumping into an established shop. But yes, like every day you turn around, there's another shop opening up. It just is what it is, People could say to some degree, like, I don't belong here. Well, I apprenticed here in the 90s, but I had left, went back home. I've been in and out of the city many times over the years, but what makes somebody more worthy to be in a place than somebody else? It's America, man. You can live in any city here. You're an American, right? So that doesn't bother me so much because I'm an outsider, but the people who were born and raised here, I'm sure it hurts a little bit every time they turn around and they see somebody else move in and then no matter how good you are, how great your reputation is, that will take a little bit of your walk-ins away, will take a little bit of your appointments away. It doesn't matter who you are and how great you are. It's just a lot of hands in the pot. So you'll see like saturated pockets in this city, and those are the parts of town where the owners of the strip malls and stuff just don't care. East side is saturated with tattoo shops, and some of up north is saturated with tattoo shops. It just seems to be, luck of the draw as to who owns that piece of property you're trying to get your foot in.
What thinking about having that? And this question actually I'm direct to Robyn. Thinking about having that that type of hate to say competition, but there are a ton of one of you guys made the comment yesterday that the folks around here were excited to have a tattoo shop in this area because there's not one really close to here. We're kind of out of town a little ways. It was, how far do we drive? 20 minutes from South Congress area, from downtown Austin area, something like that. Is that right?
We have one that's like maybe 5. So we have one that's like 5 minutes from here. We've probably got another one that's like 10 minutes from here.
Saturated.
One that's 3 minutes from here. It's not super saturated, but there seems to be less in the south than there always has been because I guess the north is the higher concentration with the campuses and everything of people. Yeah. So there were only a few scattered south.
Gotcha.
But surprisingly, it doesn't matter whether it's east side or west side, there are a lot of property owners in the south that just don't want any part of it. And not even to try to go like east or west or wherever, like straight down Manchac, which is like a main cut through from, where the hot spot is of South Austin, like, South Congress and all that. Manchac goes straight down to the town of Manchac, and that road has so many strip malls in it and property owners that don't want anybody in them. It doesn't really seem to matter that you're super far south and it's not even like the most built up area yet or like the most expensive area yet. The owner of that property still doesn't want any part of tattooing. So surprising that there's not more south, but it's because of property owners.
Yeah. What made me ask that was one of you guys, I forget which one, were telling me that there was someone who was getting tattooed somewhere in the city, and you were talking about it because you were saying that they had, their artist is 20 minutes away. They had booked an appointment, already gotten tattooed by one of you, or were planning to get tattooed by the other of you, and you're like, I don't know, they're going back to their original artist. We're a lot closer, and we've got a good rapport and all that kind of stuff.
So I'm actually tattooing her. So she, really liked our shop and continued to stick with us. So it's great, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's what you want.
Yeah, I definitely. And so my question was going to be one thing, it shows that there are enough tattoo shops in the city that like distance from home is a thing. In our city, that's not a thing. Though people drive, it's like they'll drive wherever to get to the artist.
Same also, but specifically like this area that we're in, it's more of a neighborhood than it is a city feel. So the people who live in this neighborhood have lived here for decades, and they've just been waiting for new businesses to come. And because this is a brand new building that we're in, they've been eyeing it like a hawk, like what's going in, what's going to be. And as soon as they saw the tattoo sign come up, they just keep coming in, and they're like, we're so happy you're here. Like, this is great. I've been looking for a new tattoo shop. So, I mean, it did fill a need, which is great. So
it's also interesting. Staying with you. It's also interesting that you, like when we first met, I didn't even know you were a tattooer early on when we met. You were barely tattooing. Mm-hmm. And then the first time we podcasted together, you said, I do tattoos for people who don't like tattoos.
Yeah. It's kind of changed.
Yeah. And then suddenly, like, anytime I talk to Ty now, he's just like, oh, yeah, Robyn stays, like, steady. Or the other day, he was like, yeah, for the first time since we've been here, Robyn has actually slowed down a little bit. So it's funny how, like, Ty spent his whole life drawing and, like, he's coming to do workshops and stuff in Memphis with, Nick Baxter, Dan Marshall, or whoever, and has put his like life into being a large-scale illustrative tattooer. And you're like, I do tattoos for people who don't like tattoos, but you find yourself steadily.
I call myself the mom pleaser. So I do the tattoos that all the moms approve of. When the moms hate tattoos and then the daughter comes and gets the tattoo and they show mom's like, oh, well, I didn't know tattoos could be like that. Well, baby, no, I want one. So that's that's what I've been dealing with for the majority of my career is, I do the more feminine, dainty style, which is what people are not used to seeing, especially that generation. They just, they imagine like the sailor tattoos is all they see. They just see like the manly tattoos.
Yeah. That's what I wonder with, if I were to pick up and move to a city that had a ton of like tattoo competition. There are tons of great tattooers. I was talking to Jeff Insminger about this over the weekend. Somebody, and I can't remember his name, but he's a well-known tattooer, big geometric kind of work, has moved from, Jeff said he moved from California to Austin. I didn't know much about him, but his publicist reached out to me, and this has happened a few times. It happened actually with Nico Hurtado. I ended up interviewing him because a publicist reached out. It was like, hey, would you put Nico on your show? And this person's like, hey, would you be interested in interviewing this person? So you've got big name people that are like reaching out to media outlets, if you can call this, or whatever, this and a lot bigger media outlets, like whoever's talking to tattooers, they're reaching out to all of them saying like, hey, can we like get in front of your audience? And so it makes me think about moving to a town like this. Like, what would be my approach? Would I try to dial in and do a thing like, like that you have done? Would I try to put myself out there and just like be like we did in the 90s where it was like tribal? Yeah, I do that. Lettering. Yep. That's what I do. Like portraits. Absolutely.
For me, I can only be me. Like I can't be anyone else. So I think that's kind of been tried and true is just, be yourself and people will find you. And if you're not their style, they'll move on. But if they want your style, then they see that you're genuine. And I think that's it.
Yeah.
So because of what she does being popular and her being really good at it, I feel like she has less of a struggle than somebody like me who does large-scale illustrative work, where a lot of people do large-scale illustrative work. And in a city that's oversaturated, I think it's no longer enough for you to be a consistent award-winning artist, a great tattooer, great saturation, great color blending, all of those things that made you a bigger deal in maybe a smaller area. Now we're moving into, like you're speaking of, you need a PR person. You need to start like networking. Oh my God, I got to get online on board with like some influencers who's going to like promote me and like make me seem like the big deal that I already am as far as being a tattoo artist. But it doesn't matter to the public unless somebody's willing to brag about me on their page that has like, 200,000 followers. Now I'm a nobody. Like, well, I've been doing this since the 90s and consistently successful at it. Doesn't matter these days. It's more about appearance. It's more about social connections and everything. If you can tattoo good on top of that, great. If you can't, they'll still support you if you have the support of all those other people. And that's kind of what kind of takes a little bit out of the long-time tattooers who have worked extremely hard and really honed their skills to be the best of the best, to find out that that's not enough anymore.
Yeah.
So yeah, it kind of sucks, but at the same time, if you don't evolve, you get left behind, right? So what do we need to do now? Bite the bullet and start reaching out to people, making connections, and try to be a tattoo artist and do your drawings and do a good job on your tattoo on top of all of that crap. So you need full-time management to work in the shop with you while you tattoo to make all that happen. Otherwise, move to an area that doesn't have loose restrictions, that doesn't have a lot of competition. But if you want to be in a city that's fun to be in, where everyone wants to be, fucking fight.
That's an interesting point too, the loose restrictions. So Texas doesn't have a lot of restrictions on artists. I know tattooers who've been tattooing out of their houses.
Outside of these
outside of this,
business owners that own the strip malls that they won't let you in, no. You'll find a million places in certain pockets that will just let anybody in.
Yeah. There's no artist license here, is that correct? Just shop licenses?
It's a shop license. Not an artist license.
An artist I was talking about Insminger earlier. He's been tattooing at his farm for quite a few years now, out of town somewhere. So if he would he need a shop license to tattoo out of his house?
Most likely in some of the smaller towns, no.
No, he can just tattoo.
So we were originally thinking about, before we ended up buying a house in South Austin here, we were like, oh, you know what, man, maybe we'll just go outside of the city, save ourselves some money. We were looking in Maine or Texas. So the neighborhood we lived in was an HOA, or we were going to live in was an HOA. They had a restriction that you couldn't have a certain type of business out of your house. Couldn't have people coming or going. If you were doing a home office, fine, but nobody could see somebody pull into your driveway, park, go inside, come back out. So tattooing was out for that. But in the actual town of Manor, you can work out of your house. Like, so I could have had like a little backyard studio in that town rather than, being here in Austin and needing a retail space and all of that other stuff. So there's a lot of small towns that are so small, there's zero restrictions, no holds barred. So there's quite a few states like that throughout the country, though.
Yeah.
A friend of mine used to tattoo in Pennsylvania that way. There was no licensing, and he worked from home. And he worked from home very successfully. He's a great artist.
Yeah.
So.
I've been trying to push that. It's funny. Tennessee is a weird state. Nashville's obviously grown. It's real similar to Austin, but in Memphis, tattoo, it's always been sort of a small tattoo town, even though it's a very big city. And when I moved from my shop to open a private studio, the main reason I did that was because of Fireside. I was hoping to do more tutorials and online stuff. So my camera setup, my station was just outgrowing the shop. I had pushed my shop mate into a corner, and she couldn't get to the bathroom without being in my way, or without, tripping over wires. And so I wanted to start a private studio, and that had never even been brought up in the history of Memphis, Tennessee. This was 2015. Never heard of the idea. And the battle that I had with it was, well, how do we inspect you? Like, if you don't have shop hours, I'm like, well, you could just text me. Just call me. I'll come meet you, Right, yeah. So it's funny, just I don't have a real point with that, except for here. And I remember I was getting tattooed down here by Jeff at that point in time when I was making that move. I remember thinking like, man, that would be so much easier if I didn't have a shop, if I could just work out of my painting studio or work out of, someplace, that whatever, out of my house. Well, before we shut anything down, let's run through Blue Bonnet Tattoo, like where the name came from, where the theme came from, like what your hopes are for it. You have 3 of you guys, the 2 of you and Nick, and you've got 6 stations?
6 total. One is a designated guest booth station, so that'll always be for whatever artists come into town that, want to work with us. So we'd like to grow eventually into 5 artists maximum. We don't see that happening for 2 years, and that's strictly because we don't want to be the shop that's just about, well, we'll take anyone just to make more money. That's not what we want. It has to be,
We care about the booth.
yeah, it's not about the rent. It's just about the right artist, the right quality, the right personality completely. I think that's really important. And yeah, I'm going to let Ty explain the name though.
Okay. Did you do, you mentioned booth rent. Did you do booth rent in New Jersey too?
Always, yeah.
So you've never done percentages,
No.
just because you don't want the hassle of having to keep up with people's work?
Yeah, I've been doing it since the 90s like you. So you have a percentage of somebody. There's always that money that never happened. There's always that friend or the cousin or the guy you owed something to because he worked on your car or whatever. Like, I don't want any part of that headache. Even though whether they take from you or not, it ends up being more than your booth rent, I still don't want to work around dishonest people. So I want to work around motivated people who, if you put more time in and more hours into the shop, that extra money is going in your own pocket. That's going to make somebody happier. The wrong kind of person wants to work 3 days a week. The right kind of person would still work the 5 days a week because they want a better life for themselves and their family, which is what we're looking for.
Mm-hmm.
So our booth rents are probably not the cheapest, but we're also not just filling booths to take the rent when the shop traffic doesn't warrant having that extra person. Right. So whoever's going to be here is going to thrive, and they're going to have more than they want because we're not just filling a space.
Right.
Which is the opposite of a business owner's business model.
Okay. Right.
It's an artist-first business model.
Uh-huh.
As far as the name of the shop, one of the spaces we were looking at was out of town. It was down in Buda, and it was on Cabela's property. And we spoke to these people on the phone. They looked at our business model and our business plan, and they said, "You're perfect for what we're looking to do here." It happened to be right across the street from a dance hall. So I said, man, when we move down here, we're going to just be tattooing cowboy boots and blue bonnets all day long. Might as well just name the place Blue Bonnet Tattoo. So a light bulb goes off, and she's like, Blue Bonnet Tattoo. Jesus, that's genius. Hang on a second. Sheila's website, social media,
All available.
everything's all available. Like, I'm sorry, man. People were born and raised in this place, and nobody ever thought to make a Blue Bonnet Tattoo.
Yeah.
What are we going to do? Jump on that fast.
Yeah.
Like that day, we got all those things locked in. We went down to the city, got the DBA for Blue Bonnet Tattoo, and locked it all up. That was way back in July before we even had a space. So we decided to stay in town instead of taking that space down in Buda because we've been Austin tattooers. We want to be Austin tattooers. We want our shop to be centrally located in Austin. And by moving ourselves to Buda, we're no longer Austin tattooers. Not that there's, a hierarchy to it, but like, hey, if you're a city tattooer and you're an Austin tattooer, you're not a suburb tattooer. And the quality of our work, we felt we should stay in Austin. That's how it all came about.
Yeah.
And I'm happy we're here. Also closer to home. I'm 3 minutes from my shop.
That's nice. Yeah. And you went full in on it with like the little camping posts and the,
Yeah.
so like what in your
Talk a little bit about your inspiration.
yeah, and I love the brochure, portfolios, all that stuff is so cool.
Robyn did interior design in FIT, so she's the brainchild of interior design, and this was her baby. So take it away, Robyn.
So blue bonnets are notorious in the hill country of Texas, which is one of my favorite areas or favorite things about living in Austin is the hill country. So I said to him, I'm like, we really love going to the hill country and camping. So why don't we bring the outdoors in? Like if we're stuck indoors all day tattooing, why don't we have what we love surrounding us? So little by little, like we came up with like what I considered at the time ridiculous ideas that came to fruition. But it's camping, hill country, state park. So everything is state park based. So our portfolios are state park brochures. In the brochure rack next to the Texas State Park guides, and then the live cactus that you would find out in the hill country, and just a lot of warm woods, so that when you walk in, you don't necessarily feel like you're walking into a tattoo shop. It is a tattoo shop, but it has a different feel.
Yeah. I love how that evolution has happened. You guys did a great job with it. I got a bunch of B-roll earlier that I'm sure we're dropping in now, but I love how tattoo shops have evolved in all these crazy different ways, and like there are these extremes. Like I don't know if you guys have seen the is it lease? No, Arlo tattoos, and they bought this giant like church, and everything's white in the whole place, and then I see like this being like super kind of rustic and outdoorsy and woodsy, and you see like, and I've seen some that are all like kind of steampunky, and they have gears built into the walls, and like I just love the evolution of tattoo shops because when I grew up they all looked exactly the same.
I haven't seen Arlo's. I'm sure it's amazing, but my friend Jake Kirk from up in Pennsylvania has like a more of like a BioShock themed tattoo shop. It's pretty cool. It is nice to see people doing something different than the black and white checkered floors, right?
Right. Yeah.
Sorry, guys, there's no stripper pole in this place. It's a family environment.
It's super cool. It's like it's more fun to like walk through tattoo shops and just see, like you never know what you're gonna see. I did a guest spot and taught a seminar in Brooklyn at Italia Ava, and beautiful. All like everyone in there for the most part is like Eastern European folks. Like there weren't many Americans working there. And Eva, who owns it's from I forget where, but she Hungary maybe, something like that. But the place is, it's all white with concrete floors, super tall ceilings, Gothic arches and stuff like that. But all white. And then there's a flower shop across the street. And every day on the way in, they stop and buy all these like fresh cut flowers. So every day is brand new, like fresh cut flowers at the stations. And like, it's like you walk in and you just like, the hairs on the back of your neck stand up because it smells so fresh and nice. You're like, oh, this place is awesome.
Our cactus don't smell like anything.
Yeah.
But they're real. So I think it's great because like she was saying, bring what you gravitate towards into your workplace. I think that your business should should be a part of you. It should be something that makes you smile. Every day when you walk into the shop, when you first open that door, it should bring you some sort of happiness, which is going to extend into your creativity or your tattooing. You shouldn't be in a place that feels like an office space or a cubicle. You need to be in something that is truly you and something from your heart. And I think you'd have so many different unique spaces in this city or any city if everyone did what they enjoy personally, and no two would be alike.
Right.
You know, like nobody should be like cherry picking, oh, this guy's place is cool, I'm going to emulate his. Like, no, man, what speaks to you? What do you enjoy? That should be what you're planting yourself in for 8 to 10 hours a day, every day. And
yeah. It's funny. That's a great way to think about it. I don't know if you guys ever read anything from or listened to anything from Seth Godin, like a marketing kind of guru, but he's a really thoughtful guy. And he talks about like, when you're trying to build whatever, your business, your brand, your everything, his mantra is, people like us do things like this, you know? And so when you build a thing, it's like, people like us enjoy things like this. It's not for a lot of people. It's for a small amount of people, but this is what it is. And people who enjoy that will show up for it, you know?
Yeah.
And then that grows.
I feel like it's a pretty neutral space as far as like, I don't think that anyone's going to walk in and be like, oh, I hate it. So that's
State
what we're
parks.
hoping.
Boo.
Yeah, who hates nature? I think that it was a pretty neutral design. It wasn't too one way or another.
Yeah, but really well done. So yeah,
we're artists by trade. We're creatives. We're craftsmen. I would say if somebody wants to do something that they're going to enjoy working in every day, don't pay somebody else to do it. Robyn and I spent all of our time here building this place, soup to nuts, by ourselves. I'm the guy with the saws and the hands-on creative guy. She's the interior designer. We did it all 50-50. And when you're done with that blood, sweat, and tears, you're going to be much happier and much more proud of yourself for what you've accomplished than you would be if you just paid some contractor to do it. Yeah. So I think that's why we have, a piece of our heart here, is because we spent all the time here doing it ourselves.
Yeah. Oh, that's beautiful. I mean, it's paid off visually. I hope it pays off, from financially. And it seems like a cool spot. I love it. It would be terrible for me because there's a bar here and a liquor store there. So I need to. Hey, there's no chance. I'm not coming to work here. That'd be terrible.
When you're done in the Texas Hill Country Tattoo Shop, you can just roll right next door into the Christmas theme bar, man. It's a beautiful day. 365. Nice. Christmas every day.
Yeah, we should roll over there and get some eggnog once we wrap up.
Yeah, that's where we're going to be wrapping.
Well, cool. Well, this is fun, man. I always enjoy hanging out and talking on camera. I mean, we talk off of camera a lot, but yeah, this is super cool. I love it. I'm happy for you guys. I'm glad it worked out. I hate that you had 27 no's.
Everything happens for a reason, right? That's the motto you have to live by as things are going terribly wrong.
Yeah.
So, in hindsight, we'll know why it happened.
Yeah.
And that's why.
Yeah. Well, sweet. Well, I'll leave all the info on how to get in touch with both of your to the shop and both your Instagrams and all that.
Thank you.
The show notes. Huh? Oh, when it's
Were you getting that out?
It's not gonna be out before. Look, we can tell about it though. There is a party. In social media we can do it. There's no
Party
chance
you're
the
gonna
episode will
miss.
be out. There's a party you're gonna miss. February 22nd opening party, grand opening, Blue Bonnet Tattoo. We will put it out on social media. Let's do that. We'll do, but there's no chance the episode's going to be out by February 22nd. So,
Well,
all right.
Just stop by after.
That's like, there's a process now. There's more people involved than just me. If I start throwing put this one out first, I'll get kicked out. So, all right, everybody. Thank you guys for supporting what we do. Thank you guys. All right. We'll see you next time.
Thanks.
Hey, there you go. Thanks to Ty and Robyn. Thanks to you for spending a little time with us, and we'll catch you in the next one.